With the World Cup being underway for nearly a week, and with Phil Parkinson confirming that he's going to use the tournament to possibly scout new signings for Wrexham, today I'm going to be picking 5 players that I think Wrexham could sign from the 2026 World Cup. We've got a whole host of names from a whole host of different countries across the world. I've put a lot of research and a lot of time looking at the players, how they could fit this system, and whether Wrexham could really benefit off some of their current club situations. So it's going to be an interesting one today. We're mixing the content up, so if you would like to see more Wrexham AFC content on the YouTube app, make sure to get down there and click the red subscribe button. We're on the road to 29,000 subscribers. If you enjoy this type of content as well, please feel free to drop a like. Any likes are much appreciated, and any comments as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. So yeah, without further ado, enough of the self-promotion, let's get into my first pick. My first pick is Yukinari Sugawara. Now, Sugawara is currently out of the World Cup representing Japan. He played in their opening game, and I think it's a signing that could make a lot of sense for both parties. For Sugawara, given the current situation that he does have at Southampton, and Wrexham really in need for a new right wing back in the summer transfer window. Now, like I just said, Sugawara is a right wing back who spent last season on loan at Werder Bremen over in the Bundesliga, where he registered 6 assists in just 29 starts. So he had a successful loan spell over in Germany's top tier, and I think, like I said, with Wrexham heavily in need of a right wing back down that right hand side, we've lost Kabore. I think it's apparent that we're going to lose either Ryan Longman and Ryan Barnett, not due to the fact that there's other clubs in for them, but due to the fact that I don't think they're good enough to be a starter in this Wrexham team, and I think we can do better in terms of building that depth up down that right hand side. And looking at Sugawara's attributes, I do believe that he could fill that void down the right hand side very well. He's a very attacking minded right wing back who loves to be involved in the final third. Looking at his statistics from last season in the Bundesliga, 20 chances created, 4 big chances created and 6 assists, and just loves to get down that right hand side, loves to put that cross into the box. And I think in terms of a similar playing style to Issa Kabore, he's a key player in the attacking phases, especially in this Wrexham setup where we rely so heavily on our wing backs to be involved in the play, creating those chances in behind, creating those crosses, being good from set pieces. I do think we would see the best version of Sugawara in this Wrexham team, because the best version of himself is seen in the final third of the pitch opposed to defending. So like I said, Wrexham rely heavily on their wing backs to have a good attacking output, and I think Sugawara's game is heavily based on that. So I think it could be an interesting one in terms of what his situation is with Southampton. We'll get talking about it in a minute, but I think in terms of a player, when he's on the ball down that right hand side in the wide areas, he's always going to create a chance. Looking at Sugawara personally, after his loan spell at Werder Bremen, there was a £6 million buyout option for the German side to sign him on a permanent deal. It looks like they've not opted for that, and he's going to return to Southampton for pre-season. So if he's going to be out of favour at the Saints, and at 25 years old he'll be looking to get regular football somewhere, it could be a very logical signing from Wrexham. Harry Souttar is my next pick. Now, the Australian international will no doubtedly be looking to get a move back up to the Championship following Leicester City's shock relegation to League One, and in terms of improving our depth in that centre-back role, I think Souttar could be a really sensible option for us. Now, if we are looking at Souttar coming off the back of the 25-26 season, it's been one from hell, you could say, for him. He suffered an Achilles injury, which meant he only featured in 2 games of the Championship season just gone. Those 2 were coming in the final 2 games of the season. However, he's worked so hard to make sure he has been fit for the Socceroos for the 2026 World Cup, and I think even if you are looking at those 2 games Leicester played, I know it's going to sound a stretch, whatever, but he featured in the 2 games in a 1-0 home win and a 1-1 draw against the Millwall team, who were pushing at the top end of the table. And I think immediately Leicester fans realised how valuable of an asset Souttar is to their backline. He tightened up the defence, he even got on the score sheet in that 1-1 draw against Millwall. So they'll be looking at this situation thinking they want to keep him at 27 years old. He's obviously in the prime years of his career. He's better than League One, and I do think he could do a job up here in North Wales for Wrexham. However, looking at that centre-back role, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for Phil Parkinson to drop skipper Dom Hyam, and of course Callum Doyle is untouchable on that left-hand side. So if Souttar was to join, I believe he'd be utilised as possibly a backup to Dom Hyam / competition to push him even further, and to show that there's no place for comfortability in this Wrexham team, because I think if you're having a player like Harry Souttar who is going to push and push and push Dom Hyam to the absolute limits, and he's going to be wanting to get into this starting 11, I think it could only be a good thing for us. With him being 6'6" as well, so he's a beast beast at the back, and with us playing sort of centre-backs, you look at our left centre-back role in Callum Doyle, right centre-back Max Cleworth, we play those centre-backs who like to carry out with the ball, drive into the midfield, which I couldn't see Harry Souttar doing in this Wrexham setup, so I can't see him playing anywhere but central centre-back. Following Leicester's relegation as well, I'm sure they'll be looking to offload a couple of players who might be on a decent wage, so I think Souttar will be available for transfer, and it's a question as to whether Wrexham let go Dan Scarr and want to replace him with a better backup like Harry Souttar. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would you consider the signing of Leicester's Harry Souttar? My third choice is Che Adams. Now, Che Adams, of course, a Scotland international striker. It could be an ambitious one, this one, but he's turning 30 this year. He's been destined to leave Torino all year. We saw last summer there were transfer rumours of him going back to Birmingham City. January, Wolverhampton Wanderers put an official bid in for the striker, so I think a move back to the English leagues this summer is very, very possible. Now, a lot of my UK football fans watching this, a lot of the fans of the Championship and the Premier League will know all about Che Adams. He's someone who has rich history in the English football leagues, especially in the Premier League and in the Championship, where he's accumulated 86 goals across 9 seasons, and in the Serie A for Torino, in his 2 years that he's been there, he scored 18 goals across his time. I think as a striker it's really interesting to look at Che Adams because he's one that I think would completely mix things up in that front line for Wrexham. He's one that's used to being in a system which requires an aggressive pressing up top in terms of their striker. What they want from their striker is one that's going to be aggressive in terms of uneasing the defence, pressing, just running their socks off for 90 minutes, so it could bring a new dimension to that front line for Wrexham. Of course, we've seen Sam Smith, he puts his body about. We like to play more of that striker that's going to put their body into the defender, hold the ball up, spray out to the channels, but if you mix things up with a player like Che Adams who's going to run his socks off and he's going to be utilised as sort of a striker that's going to run the lines, get behind the defence, then I think it could be very interesting as well, because as well you're looking at the fact that he's so sharp in front of goal. He's a consistent goal scorer wherever he does go, and I think in terms of a club looking to push up into the Championship playoffs, bringing Che Adams in would be a big boost towards doing that. I've said it on the channel before how I would like to see Wrexham bring in a striker that would just completely mix things up in that forward line, and I think Che Adams could really fit the bill for that. Like I've just said, he runs the lines, he creates space and chances through his clever movement up top, and I think he's just a striker that could bring the intensity from here where we see the likes of Sam Smith, Kiefer Moore, to here where we'd have a player like Che Adams who is fit, he can run around, he's fast, and he can just unease the defence with his constant pressing. So I think mixing things up won't do us any harm at all, but I think the logistics of this signing could be very interesting and could be one that I think a lot of fans will keep their eye on in terms of clubs of the Championship, because we saw Premier League side at the time Wolves had a £6.9 million bid rejected in January, but the situation for Che Adams has completely changed since then. He has 1 year left on his deal over at Torino, and I don't think it's likely that he's going to extend his stay over in Italy, so I think a move after the World Cup has finished is very possible for Che Adams, whether he wants to stay in Italy, test himself in maybe Germany, Spain, etc., or whether he'd want to come back to England. In my opinion, I think it's destined for him to come back to the EFL, and I think Wrexham should put themselves firmly in the mix to sign the Scotsman. My next choice is Krepin Diatta. Now, the Senegalese international has recently left AS Monaco over in France on a free transfer after falling out of favour in the right wing back role to Jordan Teze over the course of the 25-26 season. My original thoughts and my original words on what I'm going to say about Diatta is the fact that this would be a statement signing from Wrexham Football Club if we could pull it off. Now, despite Diatta's starts being limited last season for Monaco in Ligue 1, he's a player that's going to be in hot demand given sort of the player he is, the style of play that he does bring down that right hand side, and the qualities that he can bring to whatever side he's going to next. His game is built around his pace and his technical ability, which I think mirrors what Issa Kabore was in this Wrexham team. If you're looking at the attributes that Diatta would bring down that right hand side, he's extremely strong in 1v1 situations, whether it's going forward, beating his man down that right hand side, or whether it's a 1v1 in terms of standing his ground against the winger that he's coming up against in a defensive situation. He is very strong. He's a player that's going to give his all, constantly looking to put a cross into the box, and loves to make those quick runs between the lines, really just using his pace to his advantage in the final third and getting back as well. Looking at scout reports on Diatta, I think he's someone that you can always guarantee 100% from when he's playing in the starting 11. I think his defensive contributions are equally as important to highlight as his attacking side of his game. I think his quality would just visibly stand out over the rest of the right wing backs in the Championship. We've seen he's had interest from English sides, from Turkish sides, so he's going to be in hot demand. He's not short of offers. Whether Wrexham could tempt him to the club or not, we really don't know, but he's sort of a better version of Issa Kabori. Similar playing style going forward, and one that could really create and really could take us to the next level. And my final pick of the video is Moise Bombito. Now, he's another centre-back who could be really good competition for that back line, could really push the likes of Dan Scar, the likes of Dom Hyam, Max Cleworth, Callum Doyle to the next level this season, and a player that might want to test himself in the upcoming transfer window over in the English football leagues this summer. Now, Bombito is currently contracted to Nice over in Ligue 1, and like Souttar, he's only played 2 games this season. Now, across the board of the season, Bombito featured in the game sort of in that October period. He then suffered a fractured tibia in late October, and he didn't feature at all for the rest of the season. He's worked hard to get himself back fit, but he didn't feature in the opener against Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I think that's due to the fact that he wasn't 100%. I still don't think Bombito is 100% and shouldn't really be in the Canada squad. There were still doubts about him being in the squad as late as the final day before the squad submission, so I don't think he will feature that much for them in the World Cup. But I think if you are looking, if he does want to test himself over in the English Football League for Wrexham, he'd be a completely different profile to Hyam and Dan Scar in that centre-back role, in the sense that Bombito is extremely fast, allowing him to be effective in a high-pressing system as well as matching attackers in transitions in terms of his pace. So I think it could be an interesting one. I think it would be one that I would keep my eye on, because he played 35 games in the 24-25 season for Nice, but over the course of last season they obviously brought replacements in. He might fall out of favour, he might want to test himself if he does maybe have 1 or 2 games in the World Cup, but I think it would be an interesting signing for Wrexham, because I think his attributes again are one that we don't really see in this setup. He's a physical presence as well, allowing him to be effective from set pieces, whether it's attacking or defensive, and he's just going to win those aerial duels consistently all throughout the 90 minutes. So I think he could be a threat at both ends of the pitch and could be a really good addition to the side. So that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like. Let me know if you agree with my selections in the comment section down below. Do all that good stuff, like, subscribe, and until the next one, take care guys, up the Championship Reds.